I shared a creepy story and a creepy video to match from a lovely content creator that goes by the name of Sarah recently, and she was kind enough to tell us another story and to show us another video. So let's get into it, because this video that she caught was absolutely bananas. I have never used bananas to describe anything in my life. What just happened to me? Anyways, I want you guys to go watch her entire full story, because she tells about all the different stuff that she's experienced and how they kind of go after her daughter because she's more scared of them. But in this video, she said that she downloaded the GhostTube app just because she wanted to capture something. She knows what's in there, and she just wanted it on video. And you can see in this clip, she sets up the camera and something is messing with the vacuum. And it starts with the cord, and then the whole vacuum moves a little. It is a find, and it's really creepy, so let's look at that, shall we?
My vacuum cleaner.
Listen, this is a really intense story that involves some things that could be upsetting, so please heed this warning. It's a long one, so grab a snack, turn on a light, get cozy, and let me tell you all about this story that occurred in both Arizona and Tennessee. This story is coming from Tennessee. I've grown up here, so I know all the rules. If you see something, if you hear something, if you feel something, no you didn't. But this story took place in Cottonwood, Arizona. I lived there for maybe 2 years, and it's important to note that I do not live there anymore. I have since moved back to Tennessee and live in my hometown. But in case you don't know, Cottonwood is a very small town alone. About 30 miles around everything is walking distance. There are only 3 smaller towns in that surrounding area, 2 of which are at least 40 minutes away. But we're all surrounded by mountains. It is a desert, it's flat, but at the end of every horizon there is a mountain. Given that it's a small town, there's never really much to do, so a lot of the time me and my friends would go out at night, and there was never a time that I felt unsafe until this one night. For a bit of backstory, I'm pretty intuitive. I've never called myself a psychic or anything like that, not a medium or anything, but I have a pretty strong intuition. I have a very strong gut feeling that tells me when something's wrong or when I shouldn't be doing something. As an example, I was walking home one night from a 4th of July party the town did at our park. It's important to note that my house, you could pretty much see if there wasn't houses in front of it from the park. I was walking back there with a big group of girls behind me, and I kept feeling like maybe I should stop and let them go in front of me. As I got closer and closer to this crosswalk, that feeling just got more intense and loud, until eventually I stopped and pretended to tie my shoe. I untied it and tied it and tied it again until it was time that this group was in front of me. I'm a pretty slow walker, so the girl at the very end of the group was walking probably 3 feet behind as she crossed the road. This girl is in the middle of the road. She's right where I would have been if I had kept walking. She got hit by a car. I didn't know what to do. I froze. I stood there as everyone ran to her and watched everyone ask her if she was okay, making her stay lying down so she didn't hurt herself. But she was already hurt, and since that day I've never ignored my gut. This is probably a long story, so bear with me. The following night, I decided I wanted to go for a walk. I didn't want to go alone because even though it's a small town, it's still not safe. Maybe it's just from growing up in Tennessee near the mountains. Or maybe I just took those rules with me. You hear stories about stuff happening in Arizona, but I never really had much experience before anything that I had experienced could be explained. But I still followed the rules, so I invited a group of friends with me. There were 4 of us, including me, and we decided that we wanted to go to the cemetery. It's not far from my house, just right down the road again. You could probably see my house if there wasn't other houses and trees. We hung out there for a little bit, but I started to feel a little off, so I just suggested we go to the park. You can cut right through the woods there, and there's a nice little trail. It's completely surrounded by woods. I felt eerie walking through, but I didn't really think much of it. I was with a group of people. I felt okay, so I just chalked it up to me being in the dark and in the woods and quiet. Keep in mind it is Arizona. There's not many bugs, so you don't ever really hear a lot of noise at night like in my hometown. But as we get closer to the park, we start hearing noises. We all had our flashlights on, and we turned our flashlights to the left, and all at once there was a group of deer. We watched them for a bit until a couple of them ran off. One stopped and looked directly behind itself, watching for a bit, and then took off. We turned our flashlights all the way to see a big log, and right behind it was a glowing pair of eyes. They were more orange than red. We didn't know what it was. It wasn't making any noise. We yelled, we screamed, we threw things like small rocks trying to scare it off. It didn't make a sound. It was really low to the ground. At first, eventually, we started walking a little bit, and then we turned back to look one more time to see if it was still there. It was still there behind that log, just crouched. Thinking that maybe it's a large cat or just a really big dog, but in just one moment we saw it stand up clearly to be 6 foot. I've never been so scared. You couldn't really see it, just see the cutout of where the figure was tall and skinny. It's pitch black, yet you couldn't see it even with the flashlight on. We could only see its eyes. In a moment, we all looked at each other, and we ran. I don't think I've ever ran so fast in my life before. I was in the very front with my friends, following along behind me. Once we got to the park, all of my friends laughed it off, and we didn't really think about it again. I did, though. I was terrified. I was still shaking on the inside, and it was horrible. I had this horrible feeling telling me that it wasn't an accident for me to see this thing. It wanted us to know that we weren't alone. Something about it felt so confident in itself. We stayed there for a while, and then we walked home, because I was frightened. Also note, my room is like an add-on living room. It's got a big door and a big window. I have blankets covering my window, so I can't see out of it, but that door doesn't have a handle, just a lock. If it's not locked, it can be opened. I keep it locked at all times unless I go out at night, and I always leave a crack so I don't have to go through the front door and wake everyone up. Once I got in, it sounded like something was behind me. We have a gravel driveway, so it's not hard to make out if someone's following you, stepping behind. As I chalked it up, so they made sure I got to the door before they walked away, but for the following months up until I moved, I always heard that outside of my window, tapping on things, trying to get me to come out. I never went outside at night again, and if I did, I would always have someone meet me at the door before I even thought about stepping out. I knew this thing only wanted me. It was like a slow torture, like a drip of water on one spot of your body. It always came, and it was always there. I always felt like I was being watched, even though it couldn't really see me, and I couldn't see it. I think it knew that I knew it was there, and I think it thrived off of that energy, that fear. I knew that as long as it didn't feel too comfortable, I would be okay, but I also knew that at any night it could really break through that door. I didn't think it would eventually, and I ended up with a hole in my window, so that scared me even more. I always heard it scratching up against the cardboard I put in front of the hole, like it was taunting me. It knew it could get in, and it knew that I knew it could get in, but it never did. Like I said, slow torture. Well, eventually I moved back to my hometown in a house with my boyfriend. He worked sometimes until 10 o'clock at night, so I was always there by myself. We had no covers for the windows yet. It was an old house, just made in the 19th century in the middle of the woods. Living in the woods in Tennessee, even though I was so far away from that night, something followed me. Something attached itself to me. I always feel drained and have this sense of dread. It's not always up front, but it's always there in the back of my head and in the pit of my stomach. I've had more experiences than ever in the last 2 years that I've lived here. They feel comfortable around me, and I don't know what it is. Why they're so drawn to me, and I always hear them. I see them sometimes. They've tried to speak to me. I know they're there, and they know I know they're there. It's getting harder to ignore and pretend. I feel like maybe the 4th of July night I wasn't supposed to live. Maybe that was supposed to be me that got hit by that car. I don't know if it correlates, but I always think about that. That's something to do with why I've experienced so much and why they feel so close to me. That is one of the most unnerving stories I have ever heard in my life. It's literally giving like a Final Destination situation, like were you supposed to not be here after that car crash and it's just like hunting you because of it? That is horrific. That is so scary. Like, I'm not saying that's what's happening, but like the thought of that is genuinely so terrifying. Thank you so much for sending in that story. I would love to hear about your other experiences. Definitely not trying to alarm anyone, but there was another Catman sighting. Do you guys remember those stories blowing up on here a while ago? There was another sighting in South Carolina. And it happened a while ago. The person that sent me in this story said it happened to them when they were like 11. These stories have been around, and the shape of this thing remains oddly the same. A very tall, bipedal figure, kind of looks like the shape of a man, but all features of a cat. I'm talking cat face, cat ears, even a tail. Usually has some sort of glowing yellow, orange eye. Like, the stories remain so similar, and it's different than, like, the cattywampus legend that we know in Appalachia. Which leaves me to wonder, is there just, like, a new folklore that no one really knows about? A new cryptid? Like, is the Catman legit, or is it just a random thing that people are seeing? But it's happening so often, like, it has to have some sort of... I don't know. I'm spiraling, and I hope I never encounter... the Hatman. The Catman. The Hatman too, but I have encountered him. If I had to see this horrific photo and have nightmares from it, so do you. So let's get into it. I cannot for the life of me remember where I found this picture online, but I saved it in my camera roll with the pretenses of filming a video on it, and I know it happened a while ago because I forgot about it, and I was going through my camera roll and I came across it and it gave me a nightmare. So let's get into it. This picture is just a family photo. But if you look closer at the back of the picture, there is something in the reflection of the door. Is it in the reflection? Is it inside the house? I don't know. But here it is. Happy nightmares. I have no way to explain what this is. Get cozy, turn on a light, and let's read a very scary true paranormal story from one of you guys. I live in Nevada, and for the past couple of years, the apartment that I've lived in has been having weird things go on. I've been able to see and communicate with spirits my entire life, and I have had so many encounters, but this one stuck. Probably over 6 months ago, we had a mimic, and I told my husband that he needs to ignore it to make it leave, which after a while it did work. We haven't had any more problems with it, but not too long after that left, something else came in and instantly started messing with us. At first, it looked kind of like a black shadow of a tall, big guy, and it freaked me out, so I cleansed, but I can't get every part of my apartment, so it was temporary. It only came once as the big guy. For other days, I would see it in the corner of my eye, or at night it would wrap its hands around my bedroom door. The hands were black with long, claw-like fingers. It would move the door back and forth. The only reason I'm pretty sure it's the same entity is because when I have encountered them, they both have the same energy. They both feel off. I would hear weird noises coming from my kids' room and my living room in whispers. One night I was by my kids' door, and they were both dead asleep, not moving. They have a bunk bed, and it makes a little bit of noise when it moves, and I can hear their bed creaking, like someone is moving around on top. They were both at the bottom. I stood in the doorway for a minute listening, then walked into the room, and the noises lasted for maybe a minute longer before it stopped. I had my kids sleep in my bed that night. When I'm laying down, I can feel something run along my arms and legs. I've woken up with weird scratches on me, mainly my chin, and it would happen while I was asleep. There would be 3 scratches, like 2 right next to each other, and 1 a bit further up. But they weren't deep, and they've only hurt if I touched them, but they were scabbed over. I bite my nails off so I don't have the nails to scratch myself. My husband is usually home with the kids or by himself while I'm at work, half the week at night, and I sleep during the day on my work days. He has been telling me some stuff he's been experiencing when I'm not home or when I'm asleep. He's felt breathing on him if I'm sat in bed with him, and it's been closing doors and walking around. We have cameras pretty much everywhere, and only one records. We've gotten motion detections whenever we weren't home from every room. The only pet we have is a little mouse. My husband was telling me that while he was in the bathroom, the hallway camera notifies him about movement, so he went on and looked, and he could see a figure standing by our bedroom door. He watched it go into our room, and he could see like the shadow of a moving figure moving around the room while I was asleep. He said he's seen it wrap its hands around the door frame, and I asked him what they looked like, and he didn't want to tell me other than they didn't look good. I asked him if they looked like the ones I described, and he said yes. So he's been having his own and seems like a bit more active experiences, probably because he's home at night more than I am. He said there are 2 tall ones and a smaller one, and he's been seeing both constantly. The morning when I get home from work, I decided to sleep on the couch because it was 6 a.m. and I didn't want to wake anyone up. I was putting a few things away, and I could see a short figure standing in the corner of my closet door. It wasn't there a few minutes beforehand because I went down to the hallway to shut the door because I was doing stuff and needed a light on. There's kids in the room sleeping, and my husband was asleep. I saw it after I turned off the light. It wasn't a solid black figure, but it was dark enough to see. I didn't recognize it, so my mistake was I was so tired and wasn't registering to me what I was looking at. But it had its back turned to me and it was hunched a little and kind of moving. After a minute, I realized what it was and pretended I didn't see anything and looked away and walked to the couch, not reacting other than turning on a small light. It's been feeling like we've been watched from the hallway every once in a while. What made me realize that there was something sinister to it was when it came to me while I was sleeping. Not sleep paralysis or a lucid dream, but like a warning of what's to come. In this dream, I'm home alone and things start off a bit small, like opening and closing, and it keeps pulling at our dining room chairs. Next thing I'll see is myself standing in front of me with pitch black eyes and a straight face. I think I only remember parts of this dream, like some spots are just blank and I can't remember. Before I wake up, we're rushing around trying to gather all of our kids and a couple of things, and it's opening and slamming everything. It slams our front door open like it was telling me to get out now, and then when we took too long, it slammed the door shut. My older kids are terrified to sleep in their room unless the TV's on, even when they have fairy lights on, and they sit there and cry. One of them told me there was something in that room, and one of my twins has been waking up screaming and refusing to go back to bed or will talk and laugh while staring at the ceiling. Every time I discuss what we should do, my husband refuses to talk about it or wants me to figure it out. I've burned sage, done cleansing rituals, used protection oils, and it just keeps coming back after a couple of days. It seems like it's genuinely slightly worse, and it's causing tension and arguments, and I know it's feeding off of it. I'm a practicing Wiccan, and my husband is Christian, and I'm at the point of turning to a priest or pastor for what to do because nothing I've been doing is helping. We have nowhere else to go and don't have the money to stay at hotels, and now it feels like it's telling me it wants us gone. I used to live in apartments that was built on an old cemetery, and I've never had anything like this happen. I've had a lot of weird things happen and sleep paralysis, but this feels different. Okay, so don't use sage. If you want to use an herb bundle, you can do like a lavender rosemary one. I recommend I recommend a dragon's blood incense. Go to all four corners of each room, visualize the negative energy leaving, tell it to leave, do whatever you want. Hit all four corners, make sure you open up a window first. After you cleanse it, close that window and then fill that space back in with positive energy so that no negative can get in. That should help. What's worrying me is this kind of feels like an attachment. So that might be a cord cutting ritual, a banishment that you have to do. But start off just with the cleansing, see if that helps, see if that works, and let me know. My friend was just chased off of a hiking trail by something she could not see. And this happened in Mendota, Virginia, and if you don't know where that is, it is in the Appalachian Mountains. She said the hike started off okay, but she started hearing what sounded like a cross between someone calling for help and a bird. She was like, it sounded just off enough to where she was like, that's definitely a bird, I'm psyching myself out, it's fine, and kept walking. Well, the deeper in she got, the more clear that call became. It was definitely someone calling for help. So she gets out her phone, but there's no service down there. But she needs to call for help. What if someone's hurt in these woods? So as she's looking down at her phone, she's holding it up trying to get signal. She hears something charging at her from behind. She was like, I wanted to run so bad, but everything in me told me to stay put. And she stayed put as that sound got closer and closer, and it stopped right before it got to her. She couldn't see anything. She was looking all around. There was nothing there. It's a good thing that it sounded so close. She got out, got back to civilization, called for help to make sure that no one needed anything in those woods, and then she called me, and she was like, I think your content saved my life. Have you ever been walking around the Appalachian Mountains in the woods, and you hear someone very close to you scream for help in the woods when it couldn't possibly be them? Maybe they're not even with you. Well, a lot of people here have, and that's the exact story we are going to be reading today. So turn on a light, get cozy, and if you're in Appalachia and it's nighttime, maybe skip this video. I don't recommend. I recently came across your TikTok and love your content. After seeing some of the other stories that others have submitted, I decided to reach out to you to tell you about my experience that I had in 2021. For the sake of privacy, I will not be using any names. Back in 2021, my family rented a small cabin on Lake Santalay in western North Carolina for a summer vacation. We were there for 2 weeks. On one of the overcast days we had, my family decided to do a short hike on a nearby mountain. During this hike, I was the one who was falling behind. I'm not athletic, and I'm also asthmatic, so it wasn't unusual for me to be the slow walker. My mom was just out of sight, and my dad and sister were a little further up ahead. I'm trying to catch up to my family. I swear on my soul that I heard my sister scream out my government name. It sounded like it was off the trail and into the woods. She never calls me by my real name, just the nickname I've had since I was born. I swear it sounded just like her. It sounded just like my sister, and she sounded scared. But I knew my sister wouldn't wander off the trail. I start running up the trail towards my family to tell them what I'd heard. When I caught up to my family, they were sitting and talking at the base of a small waterfall. My mom was taking pictures, and my dad and sister were laughing about something. There was nothing wrong. I immediately went up to my sister and asked her what's wrong and why she screamed my name. She asked me what the hell I was talking about, and that she's been sitting at the waterfall with her parents. She didn't call my name, and I don't know what did. I explained to her and our parents what I had experienced, and our mom said jokingly, maybe a bad spirit was trying to lead you off the trail. Maybe it was. I didn't lag behind on the hike back. I was uneasy and didn't want to be left alone. The only thing I do know is that that area we were staying in is rich in Native American history and is near the Cherokee Reservation. I haven't been back to that trail since this experience, and I don't know if I ever will. I have very little knowledge about Native American folklore and mythology, but I do know scary things happen regularly in these mountains. I would have never guessed it would happen to me, but I'm glad I trusted my intuition to not follow. Who knows what would have happened if I did? I hate to confirm to you that that was 100% something not great, with not great intentions, trying to lead you right off of that trail. I thank God you listened to your gut and didn't do it. There's a creator on here who just moved to the Appalachian Mountains, and they are experiencing some of the most terrifying things I have ever heard of, and they have pictures to back it up. So let's get into it. I want to start with the handprints that they were finding on their window, because they said they would regularly spray their windows, front and back, clean them off, and they would walk away and come back, and these giant, at least 2 feet tall handprints would be on their windows. And here's the pictures. They're huge! These handprints are huge! They also have cameras that should have caught what was doing this, but do you guys think the cameras caught anything? Absolutely not. The cameras never catch anything. their experience is kind of unique in the sense of not everything is happening super back to back. Like, they'll have something creepy happen, and then a few months will pass and something else creepy will happen. And I don't know if that's better or worse, because it makes you think that you're safe, and then it's like, have you considered the fact that I am gonna handprint your window? So a few months pass, and lights start getting turned on when they shouldn't have been. Like, I'm talking, they know for a fact they turned off a lamp and now it's on. They know for a fact they unplugged string lights and they're now on. And it was so intense that they were convinced someone was breaking into their house. But again, they have cameras. No one was in their house, but this is happening. So eventually they reach out to their landlord and they're like, has anything creepy ever happened in this house? Is there a backstory I need to know? And the landlord's like, I don't know. I bought it for an investment opportunity. Why are you asking me? I don't know the history of it. Well, come to find out, after they do some research, someone passed away in that house. The last owner did. And they do even more research and find the son's Facebook page because he's still living in that area. And there's pictures of him with the landlord. So that landlord did know, and he just freaking lied. Which makes no sense because they were in a lease. They can't leave. Another paranormal experience that they were experiencing quite a lot was a weird crashing sound from the kitchen. Like, they would be in their room at night and it would sound like they described a TV falling off a wall. And they would get up to check it and there would be nothing out of place except for one thing, or maybe two things. So they would have washed dishes the night before and they put away everything but their Yeti tumblers. And they put them like on the side of their sink on a drying mat. They came in twice to find these cups off of the drying mat and sitting straight up in the sink. So now let's get into what this could be, because I have experienced both paranormal activity in my home and stuff from the woods in Appalachia. And I think, and I don't know if this is going to make them feel better or worse, probably better, I think it's a haunted house situation. I don't think it's really anything involving the woods. The handprints make me feel weird, but I still think it's like a ghost activity. I don't know if it's the man that used to live there. I don't know if it's just something else that got attracted into the house, but I do think it's paranormal activity instead. So you could try to light some lavender to calm it. You could do a cleansing, but I think you're okay with the outside stuff. I am literally so proud of this person because they made it a point in their video to be like, I know the rules of Appalachia and my windows are covered, and they had really good curtains on their windows, so I am proud. A 2-story duplex in Alaska, a mom keeps hearing what sounds to be like a little girl singing, when there's no little girl in sight to be singing. Right after the singing stops, there will be a giggle, and then everything will go silent. It all started one night when they were home alone except for their toddler son who was fast asleep. They found themselves upstairs getting ready when they would start experiencing the lights flickering rapidly, and then they heard the singing and the giggle, and then silence. They froze, and they listened closely as they heard little footsteps running around their house. Of course, when they looked at the stairs where the noises were coming from, there was nothing there. On top of this, motion sensor toys are starting to go off a lot in their house. The TV will turn on and off. If they have it on a certain app on the TV, that app will change. They've even experienced all of the electronics in a room glitching at once, but it will only be that room, and it's every electronic device in that room. This activity is showing no signs of slowing down, and I just want to know if anything like this has ever happened in your house. To me, this sounds like a little trickster spirit. It seems like it could just be the spirit of a child just messing around, and I want to know if that has ever happened to any of you guys. Have you ever encountered a childlike spirit that likes to mess with you?